Disrespect never starts as thunder. It starts as a whisper, a smirk, a tone, a subtle cut. You ignore it once, and it grows teeth. Most people laugh it off, thinking it will fade. But it never fades. It multiplies. Machiavelli understood what weak men never learn. Respect is not earned. It is enforced. When someone disrespects you, they're not expressing dislike. They're testing your limits. They're asking, "Are you someone I need to fear?" And every time you let it slide, you give them your answer. The game beneath the smile. You've been told that being nice makes you noble, that turning the other cheek makes you strong. But niceness without strength isn't virtue. It's camouflage for fear. In a world where everyone competes for space, status, and recognition, endless kindness marks you as prey. Every time you laugh off disrespect, you teach the world how to treat you. Power doesn't come from shouting or revenge. It comes from control. Cold, deliberate control. From knowing exactly when to act and when to stay silent. Today, we're not chasing approval. We're mastering perception. Because respect isn't built on words. It's built on patterns. And if you don't control the pattern, someone else will. What you're about to learn isn't self-help. It's strategy. 5 psychological laws that reshape how people see you, how they speak to you, and how they remember you. Take a breath. Say it quietly to yourself. Disrespect sharpens my awareness. Now, let's begin with the first law. Law 1. Silence as a strategy. Silence is not weakness, it's strategy. Disrespect survives on one thing: reaction. The more you defend yourself, explain yourself, or try to prove your worth, the more you feed it. Every word you throw into that fire becomes oxygen. That's why your first weapon isn't anger or wit. It's silence. But not the silence of confusion or hurt, the silence of evaluation. Weak silence says, "I'm frozen. I don't know what to say." Strategic silence says, "I'm deciding if you're worth my energy." When someone mocks you, most people do one of two things. They fire back impulsively, or they laugh it off to avoid tension. Both are mistakes. The first gives the aggressor validation. You've reacted. The second gives them permission. You've accepted it. Instead, do something rare. Stop talking. Lift your eyes and meet theirs. Hold the moment without flinching. Say nothing. Let the silence expand until the weight of it becomes uncomfortable. The air thickens. Their laughter begins to break. And in that space, something shifts. Their brain scrambles for meaning. Did I go too far? Did I lose control? Did they see through me? You've said nothing, but they've already begun to correct themselves. That's the power of deliberate stillness. Silence, when chosen, becomes a mirror. It forces people to look at their own behavior, to feel the awkwardness of what they just did, to see themselves clearly, maybe for the first time. Machiavelli once said, "It is safer to be feared than loved." He wasn't talking about cruelty, he was talking about control. Silence creates that quiet kind of fear, not of violence, but of unpredictability. When people can't read you, they tread carefully. And in that uncertainty, respect begins to take root. Most people are terrified of silence. They rush to fill it with nervous laughter, empty chatter, or excuses. But the one who can sit calmly in silence, who doesn't need to react, holds the upper hand. Because silence is not absence. It's control. It's the pause before the storm. It's the moment when every eye turns towards the one person who isn't scrambling for validation. Try it in small moments. At work, when someone interrupts you, stop speaking and look at them. At home, when someone throws a cutting remark, Let it hang in the air. Don't defend, don't explain, don't retaliate. Just hold still. You'll notice something extraordinary. The room starts to adjust to you. People start to measure their words. They speak more carefully, not because you demanded it, but because your silence made them aware of themselves. That's when you'll understand the truth. Power doesn't always roar. Sometimes, it's the quiet presence that unsettles the entire room. Say this to yourself, not as a mantra, but as a mindset. My silence speaks louder than words, because when your silence carries intention, it becomes the language of authority. And once you learn to speak it fluently, the world learns how to address you. Law 2. Relentless consistency. Consistency is the quiet armor of power. It's not loud, it doesn't make noise, but it's the invisible force that makes people tread carefully around you. Respect isn't something you win once and keep forever. It's something you negotiate. Every day, in every interaction, people are always testing you. Not out of malice, but instinct. Human nature seeks the easiest path, the softest resistance. If your boundaries have cracks, someone will find them. If your standards wobble, someone will push them. This is where most men fail. They enforce a boundary once, then relax. They think, I made my point. They won't try that again. But people don't remember what you said. They remember what you tolerate. Every time you hesitate, you tell them your limits are negotiable. Every time you stay firm, you tell them your limits are law. Power isn't built in grand gestures. It's built in repetition, the same response. Every time, no exceptions. That's how kings hold courts, how leaders hold lines, and how ordinary men become men of weight. Consistency doesn't draw applause. It's not glamorous, but it's what transforms your words into reputation and your reputation into influence. Imagine this. Someone interrupts you in a meeting. Most people either talk louder or retreat. You do neither. You stop talking, look at them calmly, and wait. The silence stretches. The interruption hangs awkwardly. When they finish, you continue where you left off, unfazed, unbothered. You've taught the entire room something. You don't compete for airtime. You control it. Now picture this. A friend jokes at your expense. Everyone laughs. You don't. You don't glare or roll your eyes or explain. You simply remain still. The laughter dies faster than it began. People realize that disrespect around you doesn't land softly. It echoes. Or consider time. Someone keeps you waiting. You don't complain. You don't text reminders. You simply stop offering your time again. Because if you value it, others must pay attention to it. The message beneath all of this is simple. Your reactions are teaching the world how to treat you. The more predictable your standards, the safer you become to respect. And the more dangerous you become to cross. Consistency builds structure in a chaotic world. People crave it, even when they resist it. It gives them clarity. It tells them who you are. It separates the strong from the uncertain. A man who enforces his standards sometimes and ignores them other times creates confusion. And confusion breeds contempt. One day you laugh off an insult. The next day you explode over a small slight. Now no one knows where your line is. They stop taking you seriously, because even you don't know what you stand for. But when you are consistent, when your behavior is steady, your tone unwavering, your reactions uniform, people start predicting you. They know disrespect will always meet the same consequence. Calm, cold withdrawal. They learn caution. And caution, over time, becomes respect. This doesn't mean rigidity without compassion. It means reliability without apology. Your boundaries are not meant to punish others. They're meant to protect your peace. They tell the world, this is where my respect begins. Cross it, and you lose access. Even small acts matter. The eye roll when you speak, the subtle mockery, the delayed reply. Each time you let it pass, you lower the price of your respect. Each time you respond firmly, you raise its value. Machiavelli understood this law centuries ago. People obey patterns more than commands. A man who acts from emotion is forgettable. A man who acts from principle becomes untouchable. And that's what consistency really is. The practice of turning your principles into reflexes. It's not anger, it's alignment. It's doing the same thing again and again until the world has no choice but to believe you mean it. So, decide how you want to be treated, and then enforce it relentlessly. Not through threats or drama, but through repetition, calmness, and time. Because respect doesn't come from what you demand. It comes from what you consistently demonstrate. Say it to yourself until it becomes muscle memory. My standards never bend. And when you live by that, you won't need to remind anyone where your boundaries are. They'll feel them, even in your silence. Law 3. The art of the disproportionate response. Fairness is a beautiful ideal, but it's a poor strategy in the realm of power. Weak men believe fairness creates respect. They think, if I respond equally, I'll look reasonable. But power doesn't care about reason. It cares about impact. Human beings don't remember balance. They remember contrast. They remember what stood out. They remember what burned. When someone disrespects you, your reaction cannot simply match their offense. That's how ordinary people react. Politely, proportionally, forgettably. You must respond in a way that tilts the scale, that leaves a mark deeper than the one they tried to leave on you. Not emotionally, strategically. A cold, measured, disproportionate response does two things at once. It ends the current offense, and it prevents the next one. If someone mocks you publicly, don't argue or joke back. Withdraw completely. No reaction, no expression, just distance. The silence will stalk them. They'll replay that moment for weeks. The way your eyes went quiet. The way their laughter sounded hollow. When people lose your presence, they begin to value it. Absence has gravity. It forces reflection. Or take another example. A friend keeps showing up late, treating your time as if it has no weight. You don't nag, you don't guilt them, you simply stop inviting them. And when they ask why, you tell them calmly, you made other things your priority. That sentence, short, clean, surgical, cuts through denial. They will never forget it. The lesson is simple. Ordinary reactions fade. Cold, disproportionate ones endure. They make people calculate the cost of crossing you. And human beings are rational creatures when it comes to loss. If disrespecting you starts to feel expensive, they'll quickly decide they can't afford it. This isn't cruelty, it's calibration. It's teaching others without words what your respect is worth. Because in psychology, we value what costs us something. And when the cost of disrespecting you becomes emotional discomfort, social distance, or exclusion from your world, people start adjusting their tone. Machiavelli understood this law better than most. He said, "It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both." But the fear he spoke of wasn't violence or domination. It was consequence. It was the quiet realization that betrayal, mockery, or disregard would not be met with forgiveness, but with calm, irreversible action. A man of power doesn't need to shout or threaten. He simply acts, once, cleanly, and his silence does the rest. He doesn't need to explain the logic behind his boundaries. He lets results explain for him. When you respond disproportionately, you teach people to hesitate. You plant a small seed of doubt in their mind. If I cross him, what might it cost me? That hesitation is where respect grows. Understand something essential. You're not punishing others. You're training perception. In every social circle, there are quiet hierarchies being established. People are constantly measuring one another. Who can be interrupted? Who can be ignored? Who can be tested? Each reaction you give, every silence you hold, adds data to that invisible equation. If you respond softly to disrespect, you lower your rank. If you meet it with clear, cold consequence, you rise without saying a word. And here's the beauty of it. Once you build that reputation, you rarely have to use it. People begin to police themselves around you. They remember what happened the last time. They remember that silence, that absence, that unshakable calm. They remember the way you didn't argue. You simply disappeared. This is how power protects itself. Not through noise, but through memory. You don't need to be cruel. You don't need to be dramatic. You just need to be unforgettable. Every response should leave a faint echo in their mind, a psychological reminder that your respect has a cost, that crossing you requires thought, calculation, and risk. Because when disrespect carries no consequence, it multiplies. But when every violation, no matter how small, leaves a trace of discomfort, people begin to think twice. So let your actions be heavier than your words. Let your withdrawals weigh more than their insults. Let your calm punish more effectively than anger ever could. Remember this: fear, not of pain, but of consequence, is the guardian of respect. Say it quietly, with the certainty of someone who no longer plays small. My responses leave an impression, and from that moment on, you won't need to demand respect. You'll make people remember what happens when they forget it. Law 4. Crafting the dark image. Power is never just about what you do. It's about what people believe you're capable of doing. The illusion is often stronger than the act itself. That's why the most powerful men don't need to raise their voices. They don't need to announce their authority or prove their worth. Their presence does the talking. The room adjusts to them, not the other way around. When you walk into a room, how you move, how you breathe, how you hold your gaze, every detail becomes part of a message. It tells people something before you ever speak. That message is your dark image. It isn't evil. It's precision. It's clarity. It's the quiet aura of a man who knows he can handle anything, but feels no need to prove it. This is the paradox of true strength. You don't need to convince anyone you're dangerous. They simply sense it. That sense comes from control, from stillness, from discipline. You project calm danger, not the chaos of aggression, but the stability of someone unshakable. People feel it before they even understand it. They begin to watch their words, lower their tone, tread lightly around you. Not because they fear punishment, but because they sense boundaries. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He wrote, "Everyone sees what you appear to be, but few know what you truly are." And therein lies your power. You don't need everyone to know what you're capable of. You need them to wonder. A reputation built on predictability is easy to manipulate, but a reputation built on calm uncertainty commands caution. The less you explain, the more they imagine. The quieter you are, the more they project. And their imagination will always make you more formidable than reality ever could. So craft this image deliberately. Every movement should carry intention. Every pause should mean something. Speak slowly. Move deliberately. Let your silence sit long enough for others to feel its gravity. Power lives in pacing. Weak men rush. They hurry to fill silence, to prove their point, to be understood. Strong men take their time. Their rhythm forces others to adjust to them. That's the essence of control. You move on your terms, not the world's. Your tone matters more than your words. A calm voice delivered slowly carries more authority than 1,000 loud speeches. The world doesn't listen to noise. It obeys composure. And perhaps the most crucial rule: never chase. When someone pulls away, you let them. When someone disrespects your time, you disappear. When someone tests your patience, you make them regret wasting the opportunity. You don't react. You redefine the dynamic. Absence becomes your statement. Distance becomes your discipline, and silence becomes your punishment. Chasing destroys the image you've built. It tells the world that your energy is accessible, your attention is cheap. The moment you chase, you trade respect for approval. And approval is the weakest currency in the economy of power. Instead, make your energy scarce. Scarcity breeds value. People protect what they might lose. So make your time, your attention, your calm, expensive. The truth is, your image is being built, whether you're conscious of it or not. Every interaction, every gesture, every word adds or subtracts from it. So stop leaving it to chance. Curate it. Shape it like an artist shapes marble. Slowly, patiently, removing everything unnecessary. The more refined you become, the more your presence speaks for you. People will begin to talk differently when you walk into a room. Their posture shifts. Their tone softens. It's not fear. It's recognition. They've felt the gravity of someone who doesn't play the small games. You don't argue for respect. You embody it. You don't demand space. You occupy it. You don't declare power. You suggest it through stillness. And here's the secret. You don't have to be invincible. You just have to appear unshakable. Because perception shapes behavior. If people see you as composed under pressure, they'll treat you like someone who can't be rattled. If they sense that your time and focus are rare, they'll stop wasting both. Over time, your dark image begins to precede you. You'll notice it in subtle ways. The silence that falls when you enter. The caution in people's words. The respect in their pauses. You won't need to command it anymore. It will happen naturally because your presence has become a statement of its own. And when others want to test limits, they won't choose you. They'll test someone else because your composure, your discipline, your silence create an aura that says, "This man does not play small. This man has nothing to prove. This man has mastered himself." And the one who masters himself masters the room. Say it quietly, but with weight. My presence commands respect. Because from this moment forward, you don't have to demand anything. You just have to be. Law 5. Turning disrespect into intelligence. Disrespect used to sting. It used to pull you into endless cycles of overthinking, wondering what you did wrong, how you could have explained yourself better, how to win back their approval. But now, you rise above emotion. You don't react to disrespect anymore. You read it. You don't take it personally. You treat it like a clue. Because every act of disrespect is information. It reveals something the other person didn't mean to show you. The truth is, people expose themselves the moment they think you won't react. Their tone, their timing, their small betrayals. Each one tells you who they are beneath the surface. So, instead of taking it as an insult, you take it as data. Not anger, information. Not pain, pattern recognition. That's how you turn disrespect into intelligence. Machiavelli said, "Keep your friends close and your enemies closer." But that wisdom is useless unless you know who's who. Disrespect is how you find out. Watch carefully. Who disrespects you when you succeed? That's envy. The kind that hides behind compliments with sharp edges. They'll smile, but there's acid behind it. They'll say, "You've changed," as if success were a flaw. That person is not celebrating you. They're keeping score. Who disrespects you in private, but praises you in public? That's manipulation. They need your presence to raise their own status, but when no one's watching, they treat you as disposable. They're not allies. They're opportunists. Who disrespects your boundaries after you've made them clear? That's someone who benefited from your lack of them. They miss the version of you that tolerated disrespect. They're not upset that you changed. They're upset that you grew. Once you see these patterns, you stop feeling hurt. You start feeling informed. You realize disrespect is never random. It's diagnostic. It tells you what role people are trying to play in your story. Cowards punch down. They'll never challenge someone stronger, so they attack the ones who seem safe. Jealous people disguise their envy as humor, little jokes that always land just a bit too deep. Manipulators smile while cutting your throat. They'll praise you as they position themselves to take your place. Each act of disrespect is a fingerprint, unique, revealing, undeniable. Your job isn't to argue or correct, it's to observe. Let them show you who they are. Don't interrupt the performance. Don't try to fix the character. Just remember the script for next time, because patterns are prophecy. A person who mocks you once will betray you later. A person who interrupts you will ignore you in bigger matters. A person who minimizes your worth will eventually try to erase it. If you're paying attention, people's small disrespects predict their larger betrayals. Machiavelli knew this well. He wrote about how rulers fell, not from major wars, but from small, overlooked signs of disloyalty. He understood that power is preserved by perception, by noticing what others dismiss. The modern world isn't different. Every day, people test you in micro ways. They dismiss your opinions. They forget your contributions. They take your time for granted. They forget your boundaries just to see if you'll notice. Most people don't. They rationalize. They make excuses. They didn't mean it, or it's not a big deal. But that's how weakness begins, in the tiny cracks of self-betrayal. Every time you ignore disrespect, you train yourself to tolerate it. Every time you tolerate it, you give someone the blueprint for exploiting you. So instead, make a shift. Stop getting emotional when people show you their true colors. Start getting curious. Ask yourself, what does this behavior reveal? What are they protecting? What are they hiding? Because no one disrespects from a place of security. Disrespect always comes from weakness, envy, fear, insecurity, resentment. The man who masters this truth becomes bulletproof. He doesn't waste his energy on outrage or explanations. He doesn't fight every battle. He studies them. He knows that every act of disrespect is like a map. It shows where the cracks in another person's character lie. And once you see the map, you can decide how close to stand. That's the beauty of emotional detachment. When someone disrespects you, you no longer feel wounded. You feel informed. You see the game for what it is. You see what kind of world you're standing in. You see who's safe to walk beside you, and who's better observed from a distance. You don't have to announce anything. You don't have to tell them you've seen through them. You just start adjusting access. You speak less. You reveal less. You give less. You protect your peace without permission. This shift changes everything, because when disrespect stops triggering you, you become unpredictable. And unpredictability commands caution. People can sense when their tactics don't work anymore. They'll test you once, maybe twice, but eventually they'll move on to easier targets. And those who stay, those who treat you with consistent respect, they've earned proximity. They're not perfect, but they're conscious enough to value what you bring. That's the ultimate purpose of turning disrespect into intelligence. You filter your circle without confrontation. You no longer have to argue for your worth. Your calmness exposes everyone else's intentions. Because in the end, people always reveal themselves. Not in their declarations, but in their patterns. The words they use when you're quiet. The tone they take when you're successful. The attention they withdraw when you stop giving. It's all data. And the man who learns to read that data moves through life differently. He wastes no time explaining himself to the wrong people. He invests no emotion in those who've already shown disloyalty. He sees reality clearly, and in that clarity, he becomes free. Machiavelli would call this seeing without illusion. It's the ability to understand human nature without hatred or hope. You don't expect everyone to be loyal. You just observe who truly is. So the next time someone disrespects you, don't react. Record. Don't confront. Calculate. Don't absorb. Adjust. Let their behavior be your intelligence. Because when you stop taking things personally, you start seeing things accurately. And that's what makes you untouchable. Say it quietly, with understanding now, not anger, not pride, but calm awareness. Disrespect reveals truth, because it does. And once you see that truth, you never walk blind again. The psychology beneath the surface. People rarely disrespect you because of who you are. They disrespect you because of what you mirror back to them. Their own insecurity, fear, and smallness. Most disrespect has very little to do with you at all. It's not about your worth, your value, or your place in the world. It's about them. Their need to feel superior for a fleeting moment. Their desperation to level the emotional playing field. Their hunger to mask a weakness they can no longer ignore. Think about it. Confident people rarely disrespect others. They don't need to. They're secure in themselves, grounded in their own identity. But the insecure, the frightened, the fragile, they poke, they mock, they belittle. Not because they see weakness in you, but because they sense strength they cannot match. Your calm threatens them. Your self-control reminds them of their chaos. Your silence highlights the noise inside their mind. They lash out not because you've done something wrong, but because your composure exposes their lack of it. That's the irony of disrespect. It's always a confession, never an attack. Every insult, every interruption, every mocking laugh is a small, unintentional admission of inner instability. The more calmly you respond, the more their power crumbles. Because disrespect feeds on reaction. It needs drama, emotion, resistance. When you don't give them that energy, they're left standing alone, holding their own insecurity in public view. When you refuse to flinch, when you simply look back at them with stillness, they're forced to see what they really are. Petty, small, exposed. They begin to feel the heat of their own immaturity. They realize that what was meant to make them feel powerful has only made them look desperate. That's why calculated silence and consistency terrify certain people. They can't manipulate what doesn't react. They can't dominate what doesn't flinch. They can't win when the game they're playing is no longer being played by you. Your composure breaks the pattern. You stop being the actor in their drama and become the audience instead. They lose control of the narrative because they can't pull you into it. And nothing disarms a manipulator faster than realizing their tricks don't work anymore. This is psychological warfare at its most subtle. When you don't react, you don't give them the satisfaction of control. Your stillness becomes a mirror, a clear, silent reflection of everything they're trying to hide. And here's the transformation. Once you understand this dynamic, you stop taking anything personally. You stop defending yourself because there's nothing to defend. Their disrespect is not an evaluation of you. It's a measurement of their own fear. You stop explaining, because explanation is for equals, and those who disrespect you, have already stepped below that line. You stop seeking closure, because you see it for what it is, a request for validation from someone who doesn't deserve it. You no longer play defense. You become the mirror, the quiet test they always fail. When they try to provoke, you stay composed. When they try to embarrass, you stay calm. When they try to drag you down, you simply don't follow. And that's when something remarkable happens. You begin to notice that disrespect loses its sting. You stop feeling it as pain. You start recognizing it as proof. Proof that you've outgrown the game entirely. Because people can only control you when they can move you. And once you become still, they lose that power forever. So the next time someone disrespects you, don't fight. Don't react. Don't explain. Just hold the mirror and watch what happens when they finally see themselves. The transformation. When you finally master these 5 laws, silence, consistency, disproportionate response, dark image, and intelligence, something inside you shifts. It's not a loud transformation. There's no celebration, no applause. It happens quietly, like steel cooling after fire. You move differently, you speak less, you see more, and before long, people begin to notice, not because you're louder, but because you've become still. They sense something new about you, something heavy, yet calm. Something they can't quite name, but instinctively respect. They start hearing about you before they meet you. Your name carries a certain gravity. Not because you forced it, but because your behavior has built a silent mythology around you. When you enter a room, conversations slow. People choose their words more carefully. They measure their tone. They sense that you are not someone who plays the same small social games anymore. And you stop begging for dignity. You stop asking to be respected, to be heard, to be seen. Because you've become those things. You've embodied what others spent their lives chasing. This is where the true transformation lies. It's not in becoming ruthless or detached, it's in becoming clear. Clarity replaces confusion, composure replaces chaos, and self-respect replaces the need for validation. The low-quality people, the ones who thrived on your old softness, who fed off your explanations and your constant forgiveness, they start to fade away. You won't have to cut them off. They'll simply drift, unable to breathe in the new air you move through. Because what used to attract them, your people-pleasing, your emotional availability, no longer exists. The strong ones, though, the grounded, disciplined, self-aware, they stay. They recognize themselves in you. Your energy calls them closer, because respect recognizes respect. Your relationships grow fewer, but deeper. Your circle shrinks, but the air inside it becomes pure. And your reputation begins to speak for itself. You don't have to justify your actions. You don't have to defend your silence. The world does that for you now. This isn't cruelty. It's clarity. There's a difference. Cruelty seeks to harm. Clarity seeks to understand. You don't move through life trying to dominate others. You simply refuse to be dominated. And because of that, you become unshakable. You're no longer pulled into the emotional storms of others. You watch the chaos from a distance, like a mountain watching clouds pass. People begin to realize they can't push you, can't provoke you, can't guilt you. You've become unreactive, not numb, but controlled. The game of disrespect ends because you no longer play it. A man who knows his worth doesn't demand respect. He becomes impossible to disrespect. His very presence enforces the boundaries his words used to beg for. So walk quietly. Speak deliberately. Let your silence carry weight. Move through life with the slow, deliberate rhythm of someone who owns his time and his tone. The world will notice. It always does. And when they finally ask, "Why don't you talk much anymore?" just smile. Because if they have to ask, they're already too late to understand. They've already missed the moment you transformed, the moment you stopped chasing respect and started becoming it. That's the quiet power of a man who has mastered himself. He doesn't shout, he doesn't explain, he doesn't defend, he simply is. And in that stillness, the world finally learns how to speak his name with respect. Closing reflection. Respect has never been about how others treat you. It's about what you allow. Every time you stay silent, every time you react, every time you enforce or ignore a standard, you are sculpting the shape of your reputation. The world doesn't define you. It studies you. It watches how you carry yourself when no one is watching back. You don't need to roar to be respected. You don't need to prove your worth or argue your value. Your actions, your boundaries, your stillness, they speak in a language far older and louder than words. The man who holds his line quietly is the one people remember. Because in a world of noise, composure becomes power. While others waste energy demanding validation, you conserve yours, building gravity instead of noise. And that gravity pulls respect toward you naturally, not through fear, but through certainty. So remember this: every boundary you hold, every silence you choose, every standard you refuse to lower, those are not small decisions. They are the blueprint of your identity. They are what separate the ordinary from the unforgettable. The man who enforces his dignity without shouting, who corrects the world through calm presence instead of conflict. He doesn't chase respect. He defines it. Say it once, not as pride, but as truth. I don't demand respect. I define it